Welcome to today's episode. Today, I am so excited to have Mallory Kiersten with me. And how are you, Mallory? So great to have you.
I'm doing well. I'm so happy to be here.
So, before we jump in, I always like to start with this one question, and that is, how do you start your day?
Uh, I'd like to say that I jump directly into meditation, but usually I watch an episode of The Simpsons beforehand.
And that's your ritual, right?
um,
I love it.
we have a Disney Plus in the house now, so I've gone as long as I have without ever watching an episode of The Simpsons, and so now I watch that, and then I'll meditate.
Yeah, it's about balance, right? We have Disney Plus too, actually. It's pretty good. um
Really good.
yeah. Uh, there's so much choice now, though. I have to say we've got quite a lot of the different ones, and I feel like there's so much choice. Sometimes it can be hard to decide what to watch, so I end up watching nothing. um but that's just me. So anyway, let's get into this conversation, and I would love to know a little bit about you. Just let me know who you are and what you're doing and sharing with the world.
Yeah, so I'm known as the Joy Goddess. I'm doing a lot of things actually now. I just finished a book for young adults that has nothing to do with the mystical and magical. It's called Dance Wars. So that should
Cool.
be going out to the public sometime soon-ish. Um, I'm an Akashic Records reader and teacher. I teach people how to read the Akashic Records for themselves and actually even take them on a little bit of a journey of self-discovery themselves.
Yeah.
Um, I am a spiral practitioner. I'm an emotional clearing practitioner. So I help people clear out their emotional conditioning so that they can be their most powerful, most joyful, most awesome selves. And I've been focusing quite a bit more on my writing and teaching lately. So it's been
Amazing.
interesting.
Yeah, amazing. And what led you, compelled you and led you down this path of doing all these different things?
Yeah, so it was interesting because I would say that the biggest impact on my personal life and even getting me to the point where I was writing again. I always wrote as a child, and I loved it. And then somewhere around middle school, maybe first year of high school, um, I just it wasn't that I lost interest. It's almost like I shut that part of me down, that really creative side, in
Mm.
favor of what was considered, academic writing or what was considered like high class writing. I don't know how to say it exactly, but it was like the literature and the art form is like peh, and
Yeah.
the academic side is what is prized.
Mm.
So I shut down that creativity quite a bit. I wrote for a newspaper in college, um, and then learning to read Akashic records for me was my step into really opening that creativity and my spiritual gifts and all of those things that I repressed,
Mm.
and opening up that part of me. And then it just sort of goes hand in hand with the spiral and the emotional clearing as well, because it's like I started that process of opening it up and realizing, oh, I'm worthy of an investment. I'm worthy of something greater than this. And then deconstructing the emotional conditioning got it so where I opened way up, way bigger than I ever thought that I could have before. So,
Mm.
and I knew even before I even committed to the spiral, and I knew even before I committed to the Akashic like records, because I didn't actually know what the Akashic records were before I went to go learn how to read them. I just knew that I had to do it. And sort of the same thing with Spiral. I didn't fully understand what I was getting into when I committed to it. I just knew that I had to do it. And then at some level, I also knew that I was going to be a practitioner as well. So it's just one of those things where it's like you had the knowing, I acted on the knowing, and it just happened. So
So amazing. So amazing. Just bear with me one sec. I just have to lock my door. Sorry. It is locked. I just wanted to make sure no little visitors popped in and interrupted us, because they have one of them might have a tendency to do that. Yeah, that is so amazing. And can we just backtrack? Can you explain what the Akashic records are for those who may not know?
Oh yeah, that. So the Akashic records are essentially your soul's blueprint. They're housed in the fourth dimension, and so essentially what we're doing when you're reading an Akashic records, or you're reading your own Akashic records, or you go get a reading, is you're getting channeled information directly from the fourth dimension, or directly from the Akasha, which houses everything that your soul has ever said, done, thought, um, all through all of its lifetimes, and including future timeline information as well. So it has everything that you could ever possibly want to know about yourself. It's all in there. Whether or not it all comes through all at once, it's not going to, because it's way too much information.
Yeah.
But there's anything that you could ever want to know about yourself is there in the Akashic Realm.
Amazing. And how has it impacted your life?
Oh boy. So I guess I guess sort of the beginning of this is sort of around the time where I was shutting down my creativity. I started shutting down my connection with any sort of spiritual being. I was raised Catholic, and I remember at about the age of 9, my body started changing. I started going through puberty. I was in gymnastics. I think I might have been doing a little bit of ballet at the time too. So you're in these teeny tiny leotards, and it's blatant when your body starts changing and everybody else's looks different. And I just remember having a moment where I was like, this is screwed up. There's no way I kept praying to God, like, please stop this. Please keep my body a little girl. I was 9 years old. And of course wasn't getting any sort of response. The process started early, but back then I just didn't have any sort of understanding. So I kind of switched my focus from God and Jesus and more toward Mother Mary. The Catholic Rosary is primarily made up of Hail Marys, so prayers to Mother Mary. So I suppose you could actually say that my start of kind of goddess worship started there at about 9 years old, when I started directing my prayers to Mother Mary. And from there, I just felt, way more comfortable communicating with divine feminine. And I just didn't have a lot of concept around polytheistic religions, because to me it was kind of taught in school. We learned about ancient civilizations and stuff, but to me it sounded fictional. It sounded like I was learning about a story of a long time ago kind of story. So I just didn't really connect that people believed in these, in Diana, in Isis, in all of these people. I just didn't, I just wasn't making that connection. So I cut off all sort of communication with anything spiritual by middle of middle school through high school and first part of college. So needless to say, by the time I got to the first part of college, I was really depressed. It was so hard to get out of bed. I couldn't anything. And it was a lot of rebuilding from that. So I graduate college, I become a middle school teacher. I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do, working this good job with a steady income, and that has really nice long breaks in the summer, and all of this stuff that I was supposed to do. And I was miserable. I was so miserable. It's like every time I achieved a goal, I would have that initial rush of like, okay, yay, I'm doing something. And I would have this beautiful like feeling of like, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And so I'd have these moments of happiness that were so confusing, because it only took about 6 months as a teacher, my first year, for me to hit that point again where I can't get out of bed, I'm miserable, I'm depressed, I'm anxiety ridden, all of, and it was just all of this stuff. And I was like, something's got to shift. So my mentor was offering an Akashic Records mentorship, and I committed to an Akashic Records mentorship of a year without actually fully knowing what the heck I was getting into. I just knew that I had to learn. I knew that there had to be a different way, because the other thing that was happening at the time too is that I was really struggling with a binge eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going to Overeaters Anonymous meetings and really struggling in those, because the actual structure of the meetings, like, it was very triggering, because it was like there's no free flow. It's just like this and then this and then this and then this. And so I would literally go to a meeting and then afterwards go binge on a bunch of cupcakes, like, so it wasn't actually helping. So I was like, okay, I need a new way of connecting, and the Akashic Records was it. I remember opening my records for the first time and being fully washed. My whole body felt like it was being both hugged in a nice little warm blanket, but I also was feeling like I was floating in just some really beautiful warm water. So I was like being really held by my spiritual team. And that's the first time I ever felt that. Had never felt that before. And, the first time that I was guided into my records too, I ended up having this visualization of, me looking into a pool of water, and I wasn't seeing my physical form. I was seeing the light of my soul inside me. And I just remember going like, oh, I'm a beautiful being. Like, I have this beauty inside me that I've never acknowledged and I've never let out. And now I'm finally seeing it. So, I mean, I suppose you could say just Akashic Records has been that journey. It has been a self-love journey for me, as well as a very highly spiritual one.
Oh, so amazing. Yeah, it's really moving. And I feel like I had like a different journey, but it's so interesting listening to you talk about repressing spirituality and for so long. And I grew up in a household where my parents were atheists. So it was never there. And I always wanted to believe in magic. I'd read all the books on like magical stories and fantasy lands and just really wanted that to be real. And it wasn't until I was mid-20s and my stepmom mentioned the law of attraction to me, and I was like, that's a thing. It just, and like changed everything for me. And that was my dive into spirituality. From there I discovered it, and that's how I discovered self-love. And it's so interesting, but I feel like there's such a deep connection between spirituality and self-love for so many people. Like, do you feel like you would have found that connection to self-love without spirituality?
I don't think so. I think there's something to be said for, when I made that decision to cut off all things spiritual, it quickly became, I cannot rely on anybody else but me. And that's a heavy load to carry. And it's really, really easy to fail at it. And when you're constantly failing, it's really easy to keep up the self-talk of, I'm a failure, and have that tape running in your head. And that's not loving. And I think also we learn love from the divine. That is actually how we love, is our our divine essence acting through our physical forms with whatever acts are loving acts, or whatever words are loving words that we speak that come through our physical vessels. We actually learn that from the divine.
And what's the biggest lesson you've learned from the divine then?
That each of us has a beautiful uniqueness inside of us, and that each of us has a function in this world, and that each of us has a role to play in the world. And the sooner that we realize what about us makes us unique, and what our purpose is in this world, the better life is. And there's something to be said for coming to that conclusion with the knowledge behind it that I am worthy.
Yeah. And so do you feel there's a really direct connection as well between self-love and your purpose?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think when we truly love ourselves and we're connected, we don't really have a choice. But I mean, we do have a choice. We do have a choice to not act on anything that we are getting from the divine. We have a choice not to take the inspired action. But I think when we get to a place of self-love, it's no longer acceptable for us to act in any way that is not truly authentically us. So it becomes actually an act of self not love. I don't know that the opposite would be like self-hate, but it's like self not love, to not embrace that and to not be us, who we are at our core. So, and when we're not in our purpose, we're not fully being who we are at our core. So yeah, there are definitely linkages there, 100%.
And so how did you discover? So you've just found the Akashic records, and they like opened up a lot for you. And then how did that unlock your purpose?
So that was definitely a step-by-step thing as well, because I was also at the time under the impression that purpose is the same thing as purpose work, is the same thing as what we're doing in our 9 to 5 daily life. That's our work. That's what we do. Our purpose is our function in the larger construct of the planet, and even, and beyond that, which I don't fully have an understanding of yet. I don't know that any human does. Like our function in the planet, and then also our function beyond that, and our function in the universe, right? And I know that for me, this is something that I write in my journal every day, is that I'm a truth seeker and bringer of massive change, and I inspire people to live in their joy and rediscover their purpose, their magic. And actually what I write out is their magic, because their magic is that bit of them that's unique, that bit of them that they always repress because it's so different. It's different from everybody else, right? And it's like, but in doing that, you get to the purpose, right? And then eventually you get to the purpose work. So I was under the impression of like, okay, well, right now I'm an 8th grade teacher, because I was at the time. I was teaching 13 and 14-year-olds. And I liked it, but I felt like something was missing. And so when I was, so I was constantly in my records trying to find out, okay, well, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? And the truth was that as far as helping children to embrace their uniqueness, embrace their magic, I could do that in a classroom. And I was doing that in the classroom. And I was helping them live in their joy, and I was helping them be joyful. I was doing those things in the classroom, but it wasn't the right fit. And I think where things get a little bit confusing is that, you know, people come to me asking me, okay, well, what's their, you know, what's my purpose? And then I tell them something like, oh, like, you're here to spread joy on the planet. And they're like, but I could do any job and spread joy on the planet. And it's like, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
You can do almost anything. And, you know, because it's not about the job, it's about the function in the overall.
Mm.
And I totally got long-winded and I forgot what the question was.
So did I, but the connection to self-love to purpose, and how you, well, no, I think we covered that, and then how you unlocked your purpose as well from the Akashic records. But I think that's such a good point, what you were saying, you know, like the overall purpose, it feels like that it's that vibration or that energy that you're putting out there in a way, like spreading joy is a, you know, that's, to me, feels like a really energetic thing. Yeah. And so how has all of this now, where you are, like, how has spirituality enriched your life?
I mean, I know I made that crack about watching the Simpsons first thing in the morning, but I mean, because it's true, but it's also really funny. It impacts my everyday because it is my everyday. Spirituality and checking in, and, you know, oftentimes I'll journal with my Akashic records open, you know, with that channel open for anything that needs to come through, anything that I need to do that day, anything that, you know, what is going to help me enact this purpose on this planet and expand my reach. And that's actually how I ended up here on this podcast with you, is because I asked and saw something about you, and I was like, oh, I wonder what she's doing and what she's doing with herself and how she's doing. And I checked out your site, and that's how I ended up here. But it all stems from asking the question. I ask my guides every single day, what can I do to further on this path? And, you know, as I was saying in the beginning, there's all these different ways that I'm doing that purpose. There are different works that I'm doing that purpose through.
Yeah. And that that trust thing can be, sorry, I can hear my little boy in the background knocking on the door. His dad's out there. He just hasn't gone to find him. Hang on one sec. I'm going to see your dad, darling. I'm just on an interview. She's in bed, the bedroom. Sorry. The joys of mum life when you're recording a podcast.
Yeah.
So I now have, of course, lost my train of thought. Can you just repeat the last thing you said so I can get back to what I was going to say?
Is there a rewind on this?
I know.
I'm so sorry. You're gonna have so much editing to do.
Well, I don't edit these, so it's just going to be like this. I like to keep it real. But it was about trust. So, you know, that trust thing you mentioned that, you know, you like trusted to get here. And I think that that's such a huge part of it. And on my journey, like surrendering and letting go and trusting, sometimes that's been really challenging for me to just let go. Because I have that tendency to want to control. And sometimes, especially in like unlocking your purpose and really experiencing that self-love, sometimes you've got to trust. Like, I know for me, even just like with my skin and learning to love my skin, there was so much trust in that trust that I would be okay no matter what, and that I could surrender to this and let it unfold. And I mean, that's how I got to self-love, was that trust. Because if I didn't trust that it was going to be okay, even if my like vitiligo went all over my whole skin, then I don't know if I'd be here. Like, and I say that all the time. I don't about my skin because it was it really affected my self-worth and stuff. But I think it's so tied into spirituality, and I'm loving this conversation because I've never really spoken to that before with anyone in this way.
Yeah, I mean the trust is huge, right? And you know, for me, I'm a little bit of a petulant child when it comes to my interactions with my guides, and you know, something that has helped me with the trust when I'm having resistance to trusting whatever the action um, is a little bit of this. And my guides are, you know, they take it in stride, right? I mean, everything in the fourth dimension, everything in the Akasha, it's just, it's neutral, but also unconditional love, right? So there's no, they don't get mad. Your guides don't get mad at you, anything like that. But I definitely will say things like, fine, I'm going to do the thing. But if this messes up and this screws up and things are really horrible after I do this thing, it's your fault. And, you know, I think there's something in in our humanness, right, that, you know, feels better when we can blame other things or blame other people or project blame outward, right?
Mm.
Um, but when it comes to guides, it's like I'll say stuff like that and it totally works out fine. You're never guided to do things that are not going to work out. So even if it's not working out in that moment the way that you think that it's going to, a day later or a few days later, and for me, I need like an immediate, I need to know that this is working because I took the right action. So I'm usually provided with some sort of sign that, yeah, the action that I just took is the exact right action, even if I was in resistance, even if I wasn't fully trusting, even if I was having my hands on my hips and giving my guides a scolding.
How do you
Just roll their eyes and
discern?
go, okay, whatever, you're
Yeah. How do you
fine.
discern that? Like what do you like you mentioned signs and um it can I think be confusing for people to know whether what to trust, what is actually a sign and what's like the ego or you know, how do you discern that?
So for me, I know for a fact when it's coming from a, I feel my fear and my anxiety response all up here. It's like in my throat, in my head, even kind of behind my eyeballs. You know, I feel the fear response up the back of my neck
Mm.
quite differently than I feel anything else. Like when I know that something is a yes for me and that yes, I need to do it, I it starts with just kind of like a, it feels like a fire in my belly, essentially. I get a
Mm.
fire in my belly about doing something, about taking a specific action. And then if I don't do it, then it starts feeling like my stomach is like churning on itself and like I'm going to be sick if I don't do it. So
Mm.
I'm just, okay, fine, fine, fine. I'll go do the thing. But if this doesn't work out, this is your fault. And I go do the thing and I'm fine. And then I don't feel sick anymore. That
Yeah.
happens a lot with live streams where I get an idea for a live stream and I go, no, that's too controversial. No, I'm not going to talk about that. Nobody wants to hear about that. And then it festers. and, and then finally I just have to go and it looks like I'm just yelling at people. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to get the words out because I don't want to feel sick to my
Yeah. That's so funny. Um, for me, one thing I always find is if I feel like fear of missing out or like this sense of urgency for something, like I have to do it now, then it's not for me. Like it's really interesting. I feel like this calm and this like spaciousness, and I don't have to rush when I know it's for me. Um,
right.
yeah, it's and for so long I got in the trap of like having to do things now, and just doing things from a place of like fear rather than just like it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna unfold, and then like these beautiful unfoldings have happened when I've just held back as well, which is like it's a little different, but yeah, it's been a real strong marker for me. Because I used to be one of
I
those
wonder
things.
if it.
Oh no, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, I wonder if it has to do with our human designs. Do you
Maybe.
know what your authority is in human design?
I am a manifesting generator 6-2, a sacral.
Sacral. Okay, so um, then the fear of missing out is definitely. I mean, the fear of missing out, yeah, is like that more fear based thing. But yeah, what you said, that grounded piece is, you actually do know in your gut, this is a yes and this is a no,
Mm.
like, and you know pretty much immediately.
So like, yeah, so I used to always rush into doing courses and I'd have to do everything. Like I just wanted to do it all. And I'd just get really like anxious, like, oh my God, if I don't do this, and stuff. That's just one example. Or going to this place, like moving, like we've moved. I've always wanted to move impulsively or travel, whatever, all the things. And then yeah, as soon as I like, and I've done some programs and stuff that weren't aligned because I was in that fear, like I have to do it now. And then like the things that I really wanted to do, I just like hold back and wait and be really like calm and like cool about, and it would just like unfold perfectly and just um yeah, really interesting to me. But yeah, definitely, like I'm so new to human design, so I'm still really um I don't really, I know my chart. I know, like, I know I'm technically on the roof right now. I don't really know what that means. But um, yeah, I'm so new to all that stuff. I'm I'm looking at gene keys a lot now at the moment, actually, as well, but still don't really understand that either. And it's interesting the
I
things
sort
that,
of started and I stopped
yeah.
because I was like, this is another rabbit hole I'm not ready for.
Yeah. Well, the Gene Keys is kind of like a contemplation, like what I'm getting from it is you like read about, you read a thing and then you just go about your day and don't like think about it and just let it will unfold naturally. So I've kind of been doing that. But I'm still so new to it, but one of the things for me was around my purpose is around like my purpose being mindfulness. And felt when I read that initially, I felt so much resistance to that. I was like, what kind of purpose is that? I want to be out there. Like, and then like when I found out like I'm in this period of being on the roof, which is kind of just like watching everyone else until I'm like 50 or 60 from like 30, I'm like, well, I wasted like my 20s partying and discovering my self-love journey. And now I'm just sitting on a roof, like watching everyone else. And then like have to wait until then. It's so interesting, and obviously that's completely not what it is, but it just, yeah,
Right.
such a rookie with
Well, do you want to trade? Because my purpose, according to Gene Keys, is to be an authority figure. And I would rather be mindful than an authority figure.
Oh, it's so funny though, because I have a, because I'm a real, like I've in the past like had a real issue with boundaries and authority and standing in it. And so I'm in a program right now, and my commitment for this program is I am a commitment to my decisive authority. So I'm like leaning into that hard right now, and have, because I'm doing that and because it's standing in that authority right now, it's all coming at me. Like all the tests about my authority are coming at me right now. So I know about that a bit right now. And it's interesting how that happens when you do start to trust and stuff. You can get those tests and challenges, and I've experienced that in my self-love journey with my skin massively. Like I finally like started to get sober and clean up my lifestyle and start loving myself, and then my skin started turning white, which was a lifelong wish and hope of mine. And then it happened and I didn't want it, and I had this challenging test, and then the same with the authority and stuff. Do you feel like that has been an experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, my human design is very much so that it is my job to be super present with myself, because my yes, this is right action, and no, this is right action is very subtle. And so when I'm not listening, or I'm giving into the fear response, or I'm not, I'm not present, it's like I'll get the hit, and, and it takes practice, right? So I'll get the hit. And then if I'm not paying attention in that moment, it's gone and it doesn't come back. So it's a constant, not only like checking in with self, but then also checking in with guides. It's it's constant. And the self-love stuff, and especially, I know I just joked about, hey, do you want to trade purposes, because I don't want to be an authority figure. And it's like, and the truth is that I do, and that feels really right, because what I've done in my past, I can look back and go, every single job I had where I've worked under somebody else, which is pretty much every job that I've had until I started my business, is I would truck along just fine for about a year, and I would be totally all about it. I'd be all in on whatever it was, and I would be doing so great, and I was so good at my job. And then after about that year cutoff, I started not caring, things falling out. And it's not that I didn't care. I mean, I did care, but it was like I started subconsciously doing stuff to sabotage myself, because I don't belong. I don't belong being an employee. I just don't. It's not in my design. It's not in any of the guidance that I've been getting from my peeps. And I'm meant to be creating, doing my own thing, highly, not necessarily highly isolated, but very, manifestor and human design were highly impactful, right? So it's like, someone can do a session with somebody for an hour, and then I can do something in about half an hour and have a really big impact on them in about 30 minutes or something like that. Whereas, someone else might need a longer time for a longer process kind of thing. I can impact and do things in a shorter period of time. I can do things a lot more efficiently. So it's just interesting. It's all interesting, and it's all guidance, and it's all tools, and it's all data. It's all information to help us, love ourselves. Because how many women and girls are like me, who were told, you're too bossy, you're too loud, you're too, I got bossy kind of a lot, actually,
So
when I
did
was
I.
younger. And so this authority figure thing, that's actually part of my purpose, has, had been really conditioned out of me. And lately, embracing that has been actually kind of a huge self-love move on my part, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, me too.
it's
When I was
interesting.
little, I was the same. I was such an extrovert. I was like center of attention, bossy extrovert. Like you would not know me. It's a completely different person until I slowly just I was gonna say it slowly got beaten out of me, but in a way it did. And then it was like I would come, that side of me would come out in a terrible way when I would drink. But as I got older, and then I was just quiet and really in like the rest of the time. But yeah, it's so interesting. It's such a journey, and I love how there are so many different tools, and there are so many different ways and things we can do that can all bring us closer to our purpose and to our self-love and through all that thing. And I'd love to know what you're curious about right now.
So I'm working with a coach right now. I am getting deeper and deeper into my human design, and to, kind of my blueprint in that form. I love the Akashic records. They give me, I'm still super curious about, I get past life information, I get, all kinds of information, but I'm exploring right now the relationship between my writing and the Akasha. So what is going to happen, what's going to happen for my writing and for my creativity and my creations when I'm basically just channeling information from the Akashic Realm.
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm curious about a lot of things. I
Yeah.
have that one line in human design. It's like the investigator. So I want to know everything about all the things all the time.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. And what's your favorite book? Or what yeah, what's your favorite book?
like of all time,
Yeah. Yeah. Or see, it's such a funny question. I always ask this question and I find that it's something that I probably couldn't answer because there's so many books. So if that's a challenge to answer, you can answer. I'll ask you what you're reading right now. But
oh, okay. Well, right now I'm reading Little Women. I've never actually made it all the way through. When I was younger, I would usually stop around chapter 5, when they get out of the Christmas story. That's about when I would start getting bored.
yeah.
But I'm actually almost done with part 1, so I'm about halfway through the book.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing. Um, and who's been your most impactful teacher?
probably Leah Steele. She's the one
Mhm.
who taught me to read my records, and um, yeah, she taught me how to read my records. She was the gateway to me learning about my human design. So yeah, my most influential teacher.
She's amazing. I have learnt a lot from her as well. And then if you could
Yeah.
work on any project, like no barriers, no constraints, and be known for something, what would that be?
Oh boy. I wish that I invented the Harry Potter series. Does that count?
Sure.
No. There's a huge part of me that, I would love to. There's just so much. There's so much.
Mm,
Um, oh, geez, this is hard. Um, I love and fell in love with the dance world because of the show Dance Moms.
mm,
And so something that I am interested in doing is because each one of those I watched each one of those little girls grow up on television, and so I kind of go like I would have loved to have been there and been the person writing their biographies, ghost writing their biographies and their books and stuff for them. That's something that's still in my sphere of life of what I would like to do is these kiddos who are making names for themselves and starting their own businesses and being entrepreneurs and being celebrities and all of these things. I would
mm,
love to you know be there and guide them in their own writing process or be ghostwriting for them as well.
mm,
I mean, as far as like big picture stuff, the other thing is like I was so surprised when I found out that I was a manifester instead of pretty much any of the other ones, but especially projectors, because those are the teachers on the planet, right?
mm,
Those are because I love to teach still. I'm not in the classroom. I'm teaching my Akashic Records course. I teach classes on, journaling and energy and, like a little bit of astrology. I teach in that way. And I think it ultimately comes down to me being a sort of guide for people,
mm,
guiding them to their joy, guiding them to, through and opening up their magic and owning their magic.
mm. Yeah, amazing. I know. I think my in my gene keys, my life's work is a 6th line, which is a teacher. So, um, yeah, it's interesting, but
The role model.
I so don't understand it. Um, and what do you wish you'd first known when you started your journey?
Ooh, that's a tough one too. These are hard questions. I didn't know I was going to be tested today. What did I wish I'd known before I started my journey? I mean, I think I would have I mean, I think I probably would have saved a lot of time if I had just known that my that there was no right or wrong religion,
Mm,
that there are as many ways to be spiritual as there are people in the world. I'd heard, the phrase that there are as many ways to live as there are people in the world, but I'd never heard there are as many ways to spiritual as there are people in the world, right?
mm,
And I think if I had known that, things would have things would have been different. I don't, I think the journey to self love, which is a constant journey, but it's like the journey to self love to the place where I am now might have happened more quickly. But
mm.
who's to say,
Yeah.
right? But I do sort of wish that I would have known that in the beginning.
Yeah, totally. I get it. And what's the best compliment you've ever received?
Um, I don't know that it's necessarily a compliment, but my partner calls me Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually, she calls me Cleopatra when I'm owning my queen and I'm owning my authority figureness and I'm owning my power.
Yeah.
So I'm just called Cleopatra. And then when I'm being a butthead, she calls me Cletus. She calls me Cletus. So it goes both ways. But, ultimately, I know when I'm being called Cleopatra, I'm owning my power.
Oh, amazing. That's beautiful. Um, and what's something that your work's done for a client that you didn't expect?
I love getting the random messages from clients because you just never know what your impact is going to be. You never know. I love and trust my work, the spiral. I trust emotional clearing work. I trust the work that I do in the Akasha. I trust that what is coming through is what that person was meant to hear. Um, you can never truly know the impact until you occasionally get those messages from them. And I had one client in particular who was really just struggling with her purpose and trying to, she's just trying to figure out, like, one of her job was ending and then the pandemic happened. And so her job was like really ending. And um, so she was just really struggling. And I got this message one day that just said, "Hey, I had this download. I'm supposed to do this really huge thing, and it's scaring the crap out of me, but I know that I'm supposed to do it. And I just know that I need to take small steps now to get there, but I know that this is the end goal." And that was so beautiful to hear because we hadn't even completed the spiral journey officially yet, and she was already getting downloads about her purpose. So it was just it was amazing. It was amazing to hear that and see that.
That's incredible. Um, and what does elevating your life and soul mean to you?
It is that perfect balance between seeking the thing that is going to bring you to the next level, whether internally or externally, that thing that's going to bring you to the next level, and being perfectly content and happy and just happy where you are.
Mm, love it. Oh, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or that I didn't ask that you wish I had?
Um, no, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it all.
We
Um,
really did cover a lot.
yeah, because we kind of covered like a huge broad spectrum of stuff for
Mm.
sure. Um, no, I just, uh, can I talk about my Akashic Records course?
Of course, yeah, I would get you to share your offers, of course. So, yep, share them now.
Yeah, I definitely want to share that because, I found myself with this, increased isolation because due to the pandemic is, a lot of that heaviness was starting to really settle in for me. And I know that a lot of people have been feeling it, especially people who are super sensitive to collective energies. And so I had decided that I was going to be relaunching my Akashic Records course, which I've taught before. This time, this is the first time I'm going to be running it after becoming an emotional clearing practitioner. So I'm super excited about it, because not only am I delivering modules about how to learn to read them, you know, I definitely was coming from the perspective of connect to your guides, get out of the slumps, you know, get out of that, you know, depressive state of being stuck inside so much and not being able to socialize and be the social creatures that we're meant to be. So, you know, it is learning to read for yourself. And it's called the Soul's Journey because I'm also leading people on a journey within the course. So it's learning how to do self-healing. It's learning how to create, not just, you know, art and create writing, but also, you know, using the records for manifestation. It's also opening up spiritual gifts. It's also, and of course, it's also about discovering purpose. So it's an actual soul's journey in the course. So I'm super excited to be launching that again. And there are a few different ways. There are 3 different ways that you can access it. You know, I wanted to make it accessible for anybody. So there are different tiers of the course. So you can get in and, you know, be in the group and have, you know, support from me in the Facebook group. Or, you know, you can choose an option that you actually have one-on-ones with me, and we work through things together. And yeah, it's just a really good opportunity for this connection. If you're feeling this way, if you're feeling like spirituality is the answer toward, you know, making that connection between yourself and divinity, making that connection between the two and connecting into self-love as well, definitely, you know, check out the course and see if it speaks to you and calls to you, because Akashic Records is my saving grace.
Sounds so amazing. And I'll put the details in the show notes. And so how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Facebook. My personal page tends to be a lot more fun than my business page. I'll post like my daily random stuff on my personal page. That doesn't really go on my business page, but that is, I guess we would put the links in the
Yeah, I'll
notes,
put the
right?
links in. Yeah.
Yeah. So Facebook is the place to really get in touch with me. I have email. I have a website, MalloryKiersten.com, and you can reach out to me there. But you know, the place where I'm most active is definitely on Facebook. I love to play on Facebook. So
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah, I will link everything in the show notes for sure. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been so much fun. I just love talking to you, and yeah, it's been great. Really went all over the place, but so so insightful and useful and really valuable as well, you know. So I'm really grateful. Cracked open some little insights for me with some stuff. So that was really cool. So thank you.
you're welcome. My job here is done.
Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Bye.